Fred, you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I think we are live.
We are live. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we have 5 more minutes. We wait for the people to, to jump in the bus, but we can start chatting. I can ask you the most important questions now. So take the privilege of catching you on my own.
Just 1 second and be ready. I hate computers. One more thing, and we are ready. Checking.
Mm-hmm. No, people are slowly coming back. Hi Lotta, hi Adam, hi Lily. They're writing from Facebook chat.
Okay, sounds good.
So what about stuff in, how are things in Belgium? You said your girlfriend got stuck there.
Yeah, Belgium is like most of Europe. It's confinement, but people can go to shops and things like that, and it's slowly opening it.
Yeah, but it's not, I think slowly life is coming back for sure.
Yeah, but you see, like everywhere in the world, it's so badly managed. Politics have no clue. Nobody has any clue. It's, they just do something in order to do something, but nobody has a clue what to do. It's a bit like that everywhere.
Yeah, apparently this kind of stuff happens every other 100 years. So
yeah,
people forget how to behave.
Yes. And moreover, our generation and the generation just before that never knew any wartime or anything like that, and they take everything for granted, and it's not the case.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just 1 second. Oops, back.
All right, we have 2 more minutes. Slowly, people are joining. Are you training these days?
No, I'm doing a bit of stretching, of push-ups, sit-ups, little things just to.
That's training.
Yeah, I walk a lot, do a bit of bicycle just to go and take care. But usually I never train. Since I stopped competing, I haven't trained in 15 years. I just spend time in the water, but I'm not really like training.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the same for me. Like, because I spend a lot of time in the water, so there's no particular training, additional training in my routine. But somehow, I think this is the reason is we spend a lot of time in the water, like catching up doesn't take so long.
No, I think even if you don't train, but you spend time in the water, you keep 80-85% of your max performance.
Yes.
That's my take on it. Since 15 years, didn't change much.
Yeah. Personally, adaptation to pressure, for me, it doesn't take so long.
No.
But fixing my mind takes a couple of weeks. So I need to really calm down my fears, thoughts, and get into the mood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But definitely stretching lately became my
Just a bit,
passion as well.
to keep the body working properly. And,
Yeah.
no need much.
All right. Now it's 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Maybe we start slowly. Welcome to Freedive Friday. For the ones who doesn't remember me, I'm Memo. I'm an international training director in the freediving division of SSI. I've spent my life, I've dedicated my life to freediving for the last 10 years. And today we have an amazing guest, Fred Buyle, who is going to share all his experiences and exciting stories with us. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you for welcoming me, and thanks to SSI and you guys.
It's our pleasure. So for the viewers, let me explain the concept. We are really trying to do an interactive stuff. So I will be trying to ask all your questions as much as possible. Believe me, this time I prepared very little questions, so I'm counting on you guys. And yes, we will learn from Fred today. So Fred, let's start. Can you tell us where are you from and where do you live now?
Okay. So I'm originally from Belgium, a little country, Northern Europe, with a very bad sea. We only have 60 kilometers of shore. It's sandy. You need to go 30 miles off, 15 meters of depth. So not the best place to dive. But now, for a while now, I'm spending most of my time in Azores Island, in the middle of the Atlantic. Much a better place to dive. And I started freediving when I was a kid. My parents always had sailboats, so I was on the boat. They were not divers, they were not even swimming much, but I always wanted to see what was under the surface.
How old were you when you first started to freedive?
I started when I was 6-7 years old, snorkeling with little fins, mask and snorkel, like most of the kids of my generation. And then when I was nine years old, I started to go down because I understood how to equalize. So from the age of 9 or 10, I was starting to go a bit deeper, and I had my little spear gun trying to catch fish, but was not very successful back then. And then, yes, that's how it started. And we had the boat when I was really young on the Atlantic side of Europe, and then we went into the Mediterranean Sea. So from the age 9 or 10, I was a lot in the Mediterranean Sea, and that's where I really learned freediving.
Beautiful, beautiful. By the way, Dan Burton is sending you his regards.
Oh, Dan. Yeah. We can talk about Dan a bit later when we
let me write in my, say it like a wild card list. If I got stuck, I will ask about Dan. Okay. So the next question is, like, these are the signature questions that I really want to ask. What did your parents thought when you developed this interest for freediving? Were they, worried, or were they cool with it? Like, how was it?
Yeah, my parents were totally cool with that. I always did a lot of sports. So during the year in Brussels, it was not easy to freedive. So I was doing a lot of other stuff. I was doing fencing, a lot of bicycles and all that. Mostly sport I could do alone. I never liked team sport. I never play well with a team. And but they've always been supportive. And of course, when I was 16, 17 years old and I really wanted to do that as a profession, they were a bit, worried, because of course, as a parent, if your kids say, I want to become a free diver or a diver or something when you're 16, 18 years old, they're a bit scared that you will not get a job, it will be difficult. But then after, quickly they understood I was so motivated and I was doing it with so much dedication that they were okay. And after, when I did all the world records and everything, they were okay. They were not scared. It was okay. never been. They never put the brake on that, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's almost the same. My father was spearfishing a lot, and this is how I started to freedive. Just like you, I was 4 when I started, and then it became the passion. But still, my mom is pretty worried whenever I go to a competition. He says like, don't dive too deep. You know?
Yeah, but that's the Mediterranean moms. It's always like that because, I mean, all the people of my generation, like Umberto Pellizzari, Pierre Frola, all these guys, we all started with spearfishing. And when we were going to World Championship in the 90s and 2000, we were training for the competition, but most of the days after the competition, we were going spearfishing and bring the fish back to the hotel and we were cooking. So it was a totally different mindset. People that grew up in the sea. Nowadays, competitive freedivers, most of them, they never grew up in the sea. They have no idea what the sea is. They just want to go deep.
Exactly.
Our generation, we were more connected to the ocean. And about your mom, I remember Umberto's mom was always very scared when Umberto was diving deep. It was kind of funny. So I think it's a Mediterranean mom syndrome.
Yeah, probably. I simply lie. You know, I say, yeah, I'm not going to dive deep. That's it. Yeah. So anyway, you have been mentioning the World Records Championships. So please tell us, what are your personal bests and the records? I'm going to ask afterwards.
Yeah. So I competed from 95 until 2004. But my real years active, I mean, very seriously, were more from 95 to 2001 or something like that. At that time, we were not diving with monofins. We were still using bifins when someone was showing up with a monofin. Yeah, we were making...
That's good. Those days are back. That's what I like a lot.
No, but we were really making fun of them that they wanted to look like dolphins or manatees. And so we were more into bifin things. So I went, was in 2001, I did 76 meters with bifins, with monofin 80 meters. That's my PB in constant weight. And variable weight 103 or something like that in 2002. But of course, the numbers are very different from now.
Of course.
Nowadays, we have no idea how to train really, so we get to that point. It was taking a lot of time to go deep.
Basically, it was trial and error. You know, there's no manual to read, no course to follow to develop yourself.
Yeah, we started developing our courses. I set up my first freediving school in Brussels in 91. So I was 18 years old. And we were sharing knowledge when we were meeting other freedivers by fax or phone, because there was no internet. There was a time there was no internet for the one who don't believe us anymore. And so we had to start very slowly. And everything was taking time. And once a year, we were gathering together at the World Championship. And that's where you could exchange things with people. Yeah. And then in 92, we started AIDA. I was at the start of that. And then, of course, freediving evolved a lot. And the sport evolved a lot until a certain point. I think now the sport doesn't really evolve much anymore. But the freediving, the leisure freediving, just the recreational freediving is really growing fast. And I think that's what we need.
I agree. Totally
a strong base of just freedivers, not people who want to go deep, but just freedivers who like to enjoy that.
Yeah. In the competitive freediving, like you said, yes, the numbers are not so easy to grow anymore. You really need to train like a proper athlete, you know, like an Olympian to achieve some good results.
But you know, in our days we were training a lot, and I mean we were professional. In my days we were like 15 or 20 people living out of sponsorship. Okay, professional athletes. I was professional athlete for 7 years with sponsors and everything. Nowadays I cannot even see maybe 3 freedivers making their living just out of sponsorship.
That's true. Yeah,
I think the problem was that the way freediving was organized, the competition were organized, it was not appealing to the public anymore. It was getting bit boring, I think, and also the way the people were doing media and everything was very different. In nowadays, a world championship, you had like 20, 30, 40 TV teams on site, big corporate sponsors and everything. And that was.
But I mean, here nowadays, I think the sport is also at a turning point with the availability of broadcasting the lives from zero to target depth live. That is gaining another level, you know. That is getting a perspective for sure.
It's easier to broadcast now, but the problem, you know, to appeal to the general public, you need to be more fun, more. The people need to be able to identify to the athletes. And I'm going to say something, I'll probably get a lot of flack for that, but I think nowadays athletes are not fun anymore. When you see them, when you see interviews of athletes and everything, it's very boring. You don't see characters anymore, you know, people you can identify to. I think, there's always that. Yeah, I think we've lost a bit of the fun of the sport. I mean, that's my opinion.
That's why they need reporters like us. We need to present these events to make everything fun.
But just to go back to that, I mean, we were competing just to have fun and to meet other people. You know, it was a way to do that.
That is definitely true. Every year I go to a competition in Greece, in Amorgos. Actually, it's like it's a tribute to Big Blue, Le Grand Bleu.
Yes. Yeah.
So there, it is still the same for me. I go there to see friends. I go there to socialize. I go there to dive. For me, really, it's for myself, and that is my peaceful moment. That is super beautiful.
No, but that was the thing for us. We were training hard for that, but having fun, and on top of it, we could make our living. So it's great. So it was a bonus, but the whole thing was more the journey and the adventure, and that's why now I still try to do is the adventure side of freediving, and that's the most rewarding.
We will come in a second because, like you said, the recreational side of freediving is climbing sky high. It's growing a lot, and you are definitely a guy who is, you know, living in it, who is enjoying maybe the best portions of it. So how did you get involved with this wildlife photography, like exploration of the sharks, whales, other stuff?
But as I said earlier, my generation of freedivers, we were interested in the ocean before going deep. We were diving to try to find fish, to find sharks, to find whales. That was the kick, you know. And diving deep was the byproduct, because at some point, if you want to see more fish, you need to go deeper, you need to improve. And so at some point, you realize you go deep and maybe you can compete, and that's how it goes. So when I stopped competing, I got back to that. It's not like I switched. It's like I got back really to what was freediving. That what, for me, freediving is really about exploring and having fun. The competition was a byproduct. So that's the difference. So it was natural for me when I stopped competing to try to do something else. And in fact, 2 years before I stopped competing, I bought my first underwater camera just for fun. The idea was to make some memories of the competition for the friends.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started taking pictures, I started selling them because magazine was asking them. And I think because they were looking very different than what scuba divers could take as picture from a freediving competition, for example. As a freediver, you had another look on the activity. And I think that's what magazine liked. And so I said, oh, why not? I never wanted to be a photographer, but it happened naturally. So I embarked into that journey.
Yeah.
And of course, with the wildlife, at some point you look for stories as a photographer. So it's very easy to go to the wildlife side. And then when I was trying to find wildlife stories, I started to work with scientists, because you can tell a story with scientists researching about whale or sharks. And so I embarked into the marine biology journey afterwards. So freediving for me is just a tool to go from one thing to another one. It's not a goal. It's never been a goal. It's a tool in my toolbox to be able to move forward.
Perfect. Well, now there was a couple of questions. Let me go over them. One of our viewers, sorry, the chat is passing. I just couldn't catch the name. He was complaining about he couldn't hold his breath long enough. He was feeling out of breath. Well, my suggestion would be, Fred would say the same. Start your career with a proper freediving course. That is going to give so much for you. Setting up the foundations is the best thing that you can do for yourself.
You gain so much time if you take courses, because I often get emails or stuff through my social media channels. People ask me, what should I do? What's the trick? So there's no trick. You need to train. But first thing is to get the good instruction from the right people, because you will gain years. If nowadays we had courses like we have courses now, we wouldn't have taken 10 years to go from 10 meter deep to 50 meter deep. Because for us, it was taking 10 years to do that.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Now it's funny, but so education is key, and in every sport it works like that. And freediving, we have the chance now that we have good programs, and quickly you can learn. But also be careful, don't burn the step. That's also another problem. That nowadays it's getting very easy to go deep, but maybe your body is not prepared. So you have to be careful with that as well. Take your time.
Exactly. Yeah. Use the science. There's a science behind freediving courses. So that is our advice. And then Mark was just saying a little bit more about what we said about the evolution of freediving as a sport. Like he said, yes, that every sport has a breaking point. For sure, with the new opportunities of televising the events, sooner or later, it is going to get into a more professional outfit. There will be serious sponsors, or there will be a TV channel who is willing to put it as a new series in their prime time. So who knows? But soon, maybe there can be a new feature. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think we missed the chance 15, 18 years ago. Yes, in my opinion, with the way we run competition, the way the sport is organized as a sport, the attitude of the freedivers and everything that are doing competitive freediving, I don't see it going mainstream again, or mainstream at all. I think if you see the only things that are happening, when you see freediving on TV, most of the time it's not about depth, it's more about a character, a journey, a story behind it. But just the pure depth and the pure competitive side doesn't really interest media, in my opinion. And we need more charismatic freedivers to be able to push that up if we want that to happen again. And if you see nowadays the freedivers who are still living out of sponsorship, there's a few, but they are not competitive freedivers. There are people doing documentaries, there are people doing other things with freediving, but competitive freedivers, very few. So, yeah.
In my opinion, I see it like a whole industry. If one side is competition, the main side, if competition is like the tip of the iceberg, but the iceberg itself is freediving as the lifestyle, as the recreation, and the iceberg is getting bigger. So, honestly speaking, I'm so happy with the development of freediving in the world. Yeah. So we'll see about the competition.
Yeah, but here, for example, in Azores, I see more and more people traveling, and they are freedivers. They're not scuba divers anymore. They were scuba divers, and they switched to freediving because it's more light, it's more fun. You don't need that much time to dedicate for it. So it's growing enormously, and you see all the big historical scuba diving brands, they all now have freediving lines, they're pushing that. I think that's what's going to help the diving community to grow in the future. For sure, it's a more accessible thing, and the younger generation, they don't like when it's getting too technical and everything. So that's why they relate a lot to freediving. It's like like surf or snowboard and things like that. It's a more fun activities than the traditional way.
Exactly. There was also one other question from one of our viewers. So he was asking, how can I make freediving more popular in my area? He was an instructor. For me, the key is sharing your passion, the passion inside you. I mean, you should be the sun of your community, and then giving your light to the other people to discover freediving. Mm-hmm. What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's the way to do, and also always think like someone who sees freediving from outside with no idea about freediving things. Because often when you see freediving, videos and things, people are way too technical. They talk about equalization and blah, 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 and the CO2 and everything. People think it's really boring. It's good if you're an advanced freediver, but to catch people's attention and to be able to have people starting freediving, you need to show them the nice things. You don't need to bother them with these technical things. That's okay when you're more advanced, when you get into the course. But to grab people's attention, we cannot focus on that. We have to talk about the lifestyle and all the fun we can have with freediving.
Exactly. Speaking of which, now I'm always fascinated with the photos that you're taking, especially with the big sharks. I want to learn, what is the secret?
Well,
now look at the photos. Amazing.
Okay. Yeah, of course, these pictures, I mean, it doesn't happen from one day to another. I started diving with sharks. The first shark I saw I was 13 years old. I was in Indonesia, and I bumped into a gray reef shark on a reef. And I said, oh, a shark, shit. With all what we knew about sharks. And then I realized that shark was more afraid of me than I was afraid of him. And for me, it was a good way to start to understand how that works. I was born in 72, and in 76 or 75, that famous movie Jaws was out. So I'm from what I call the Jaws generation. I grew up with that thing that sharks are dangerous, are man-eating machines. They eat people, they eat boats, they even eat helicopters, all these things. The first time you see but it's true. But the first time you see a shark eye to eye in the water, you understand it's not such a killing machine. And like the first time I went in the water with a great white in South Africa, that was like 12 years ago or something. It was during a spearfishing trip, and a friend of mine took me to meet my first great white. And I was very excited. So when the shark appeared, we got in the water, and then I saw it at the edge of the visibility, and then it started to swim towards me. And for a split second, I could hear the music of Jaws, and I asked myself, what the fuck I am doing here? You're an idiot. You have a white shark swimming at you. What are you doing here? And then the shark passed me, and he was looking at me, and it was not a very big white shark. It was like 3.5 meters. It was a young one. Still a big animal. And he was looking at me, and I could see in his eyes that he was very curious, but also a bit shy and scared, exactly how I was feeling. And then you realize that, and then you go with bigger sharks and with giant white sharks, and it's always the same. And I always say it's your attitude that's going to determine the nature of the encounter.
Yeah.
If you're peaceful and okay, everything will be okay. Like here on that picture, it's big tiger sharks. 20 years ago, it would be impossible to see something like that. We thought that tiger sharks or white shark would just kill you instantly.
Yeah.
When people were seeing a tiger shark from far away, they were jumping back on the boat. And so it's a graduation in the way you interact with animals, and you get to know them, they get to know you, and then you get into that relationship. And so it's a very gradual thing. It's like freediving. You need to adapt to the environment. You need to adapt to animals and to understand them in order to interact. Like here we have a picture of Pierre Frola, a famous freediver from Monaco. He was in my generation of, and he comes also from a spearfishing and diving background. So he always love to be around sharks and big animals. We've traveled a lot together. And still now he has a freediving school in Monaco. He's teaching kids, but mostly about the environment. He's taking people out to meet the animals. And I think that's the way to go. But there's no miracle recipe to do that. Just need to spend time in the water and with the right people and get to know the animals and take your time.
Exactly. Knowing the nature, learning the nature takes time and experience. There's no, yes, I mean, you can learn the basics from courses, but your personal encounter, your experience is something else.
Yes.
It takes many years. Do you have any special memories, like a super nice story that you cannot forget about sharks, whales?
Yes, of course. I have millions of them. It's difficult to choose because, every day it's like that. You never know what you're going to bump into. And of course, like I was telling, the first time you swim freely with a white shark, it's always a very special moment. With the whales, I spent a lot of time working on a research project on sperm whale language. So I dive a lot with sperm whales, and there you have incredible encounters. They're incredible animals. It's the most intelligent species on the planet, probably more intelligent than we are. And their language is more complex than human language. And when you have interaction with them, you can spend 2 hours with a true interaction. It's a very special moment. I could witness the birth of a sperm whale a few years ago. So that's very, very special moment.
Yeah.
And when animals like that accept you in the group, to be able to witness and experience times like that, it's mind-blowing. And that can happen with every animal. Every big animal has a personality of his own. Whether it's a shark, a whale, a dolphin, they all have a personality, like we have a personality.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And when you realize, I mean, by our nature, maybe humans are a little bit selfish, and we are quite arrogant. We think we know everything in the nature. But when we realize big mammals can also think as much as we can, it is fascinating to.
Yeah, but it's a very easy
and a
way.
wake-up moment for sure.
Yeah, but there's a very easy way to show that we are nothing here, because sperm whales have been around for 40 million years. They evolved for 40 million years, sharks for 400 million years. We are here from, 200,000 years, and maybe 50,000 years with a bit of, developing our abilities. What's that? We are nothing. We just arrived, and we'll be gone soon, unfortunately, with the way we behave. So it's not surprising that animals like sperm whales or killer whales are much more intelligent and social than we are, because they didn't need to trash their own environment to be able to survive and keep on growing their population. Yeah. So I think we should learn from these animals to be able to be sustainable for all those years.
I totally agree. I have a personal question. What about these language studies of the sperm whales? Did you come up with a result? Like, did you manage to encode a little bit?
No, of course, we'll never get a machine to translate what the sperm whales say. No, but the idea is really to understand what's the structure of the language and how do they function as a group to communicate. So we use 360 cameras, 360 sound system to be able to understand which animal is sending which sound inside a group of whales. And there you understand that they are, in the clans and the families, some whales prefer some whales, and it's exactly like humans, they're a community, they help each other. Like for the sperm whales, for example, or the killer whales, you have the mother when they hunt, you have other female taking care of the kids and all these things. So they really have a society like we do, and there's lots
I can imagine
to learn from them for sure.
Adam was asking about freediving lifestyle. He wants to hear more about it. Like, what this lifestyle offers to freedivers? Like any social activities or what? What do you think about it?
Well, like I say, if you use freediving as a tool, you can do so many things. It's a very good way to meet people with the same kind of interest. It's the best way to explore the ocean. So you always meet people who are like the same mindset. And yeah, I think you should really see freediving as a tool, not as a goal. Because if you focus on the time, the depth and everything, it will be more difficult, I think. But if you just enjoy it, at some point, naturally, you will build up your abilities, go deeper, stay longer. It needs to be fun. You need to keep the pleasure in the activity, because if you're too focused on the depth, on the performance, you will get a lot of frustration. So as a lifestyle, you meet people, you go diving for fun with them, and that's how you prepare yourself to go deeper if later you want to go deeper. And also in our world, freediving is quite sustainable. You don't need a lot of equipment. It's very light. You can go from shore, and if you go with boats, it can be a light boat because you don't need to carry a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
Equipment is durable. I mean, if you buy a pair of carbon fins and a mask, you will keep them forever. You know, I use the same mask and fins for 10, 15 years. It still works.
Yeah.
If you choose the right stuff. And so I think that's why freediving will grow in the next years, because it's more connected to nature than any diving activities, in my opinion.
Yes, I totally agree. You know, it's not the goal; it's the journey itself.
Yes.
It's the whole experience. And unfortunately, us humans have a tendency to make everything extremely measurable, like seconds, like minutes of an hour or hours of a day. So we have a fetish to divide everything into portions and assess our performance on it.
Well,
so
I'm sure
we are doing good or bad. But this is
I'm sure
not like that.
You Memo, you experience that. You know, sometimes you want to go deep, and then you cannot go deeper. You cannot equalize. It doesn't work, and then you push, doesn't work, and then you take 2 weeks break, and then one day you go back with friends, just having fun. And then on that day you say, oh, maybe I go for a bit of a deeper dive. And on that day you break the barrier because you don't have the pressure. It was not supposed to happen on that day. And you just free yourself from pressure and it works. Yeah. And I think that's in life, it's always like that. When you push too much for something, it doesn't happen. The door doesn't open. You need to step back a bit and then it will open. And freediving is a good teacher in life for that.
I think it is one of the best teachers in life. Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, it was my next question. So I started to have a feeling like, you know, my next questions anyway. So yes, we have barriers in freediving. And just like you said, when you push too much against these barriers, usually you get stuck even deeper. It becomes really hard to overcome these barriers. Do you remember any particular point that you struggled with, maybe equalization, maybe breath holding?
Yes, but if I look back at it, every time I had equalization problem was because I was not ready to go deeper. And then you have to acknowledge that and say, okay, I'm not ready. And then you have to work on that, whether it is your physical condition or just adaptation. And that's why you need to take your time to go deep. And this technique nowadays that allow you to go deeper. For example, when I was competing, mouth feel didn't exist.
Yeah.
So
for the ones who don't know sorry, Fred, I didn't want to break you. For the ones who don't know what mouth fill is, it's a special advanced equalization technique which lets freedivers go very deep these days.
Yeah. But nowadays we didn't use it. But you know, I went to more than 100 meters with a mask without mouth fill. And but to be able to do that, you need to train to adapt to the pressure and dive a lot, and let your body adapt to the pressure. And so we shouldn't miss that. We need to spend time. We need to adapt your body. I always compare freediving to mountaineering because I've been doing a bit of mountain stuff. And you know, you don't go to 8,000 meters on the first weekend. You do mountaineering. You need to adapt your body to the lack of oxygen, to function under hypoxia. You need to adapt your body to the environment. And freediving, it's exactly the same. You need to take time, and sometimes you need to step back a bit, because if you train too much, you hit a barrier, and like you just said, you will even decrease the performances. And then you need to stop and do something else. Keep on freediving, but doing something totally different to have your body to be willing to learn new things and to adapt to new conditions again.
Yeah. For many years, my strategy was just to switch the discipline. Whenever I feel like I'm hitting my head on something, you know, without knowing, it took many years for me to understand I'm just not ready for the dive yet, psychologically or physically. But I was just switching the discipline, and I really believe every discipline has a lot to teach you. You know, it teaches you how to pay attention to details. It teaches you how to master your equalization, how to improve your flexibility, everything. So I think everyone who has been active, you know, in freediving should develop an idea to see the full picture, not just one corner of the picture.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Vincent is asking, are you still doing pranayama before you dive?
No, not at all. I haven't done any breathing exercise or anything since 2004, since I stopped. In winter, sometimes I do a bit of stretching that can look a bit like yoga. But for example, if I go on my boat to dive, I never do any breathing exercise or anything. I mean, the whole thing is embedded in the system. I don't need to do that anymore. The body switch in freediving mode very quickly. And anyway, I don't need to go very deep anymore. And for what I do, it's way enough. And the funny part is that probably I cannot go as deep. If I try to go to 80 meters to marine concentrate, I don't think I can do it. Equalization would not work. But on the other hand, I'm able to do much longer dive than when I was competing. Because now my body is used to, you know, go down at the bottom and wait for an animal at 20 or 25 meters with the camera, and I can spend 3, 4, 5.5 minutes down there. And that's what I was not able to do when I was doing very deep freediving, because my body was not adapted for that. So I think your body adapts to what you do. And for what I do, I don't need to do breathing exercise or all these things. No, not anymore.
I always say a new freediver should develop routines. It's like the cocoon, how do you say it?
Yes.
Cocoon?
Yes.
The cocoon of a butterfly. So you can grow safely inside this and develop your habits. And then when the time comes to be the butterfly, you are a butterfly, Fred. Exactly. And now you don't think about your routines. You don't think about the cocoon because it's deep inside you. So up to a point, a freediver needs the routines. After a point, you know, above certain level of experience, yes, routines may set you back a little bit.
Yes.
But as we have been speaking since beginning, you need water time. You need experience. That is the thing.
And you need to change what you do also, because if you always do the same and expect different results, then you're madman. You need to be able to change your routine. You need to be able to unlearn and relearn new things if you want to improve or change. So like in photography, I mean, if you do always the same things, it won't work. You need to get a bit out of your comfort zone and try to learn new things. But and for freediving is the same. That's why you need to take courses and hang around with other freedivers. You know, sometimes I even learn from beginners, because the way they do something will ring a bell. I say, he's doing that way. He's a beginner, but that's a good way to do that. Yeah. And then I learn. You can learn from a beginner. You never stop learning in freediving, and that's valid for every sport. But you should always spend time with other freedivers. I think it's a community thing. You will learn from others.
Yeah, I think that's because you are a good mentor. You know, when you are mentoring your people, you should be open to learn. It's a two-way communication. You are giving your time, you are giving your experience to your community, but yes, we also learn. I always say the same. The students are always our greatest teachers. We learn so much from them.
Yes.
It's just one brain, but there are thousands of students, to learn. We should always be open for
But
sure.
it takes a bit of time to understand that, and that's why we still see some freediving gurus.
Yeah.
Like in every sport, but yeah, it's important to be able to question yourself in your practice, question yourself in the way you teach, question yourself in the way you dive, and that's how you will improve and be a safer diver.
Yeah. Adam has another question. I think his questions are pretty spot on. I like them. He says, "Are freedivers superstitious?"
Not at all. I'm not.
You are not at all, but I know plenty.
I don't believe in anything. I don't have imaginary friends or things like that. And no, I'm not superstitious, because that's the best way. The problem with superstition, it's like that you get into bad habits. Like I know some freedivers, if they don't have their special mask or their special trousers, special wetsuit, they cannot dive. You give me anything, any equipment, I can dive. And I think that's the key. You need to be adaptive. If you start to get into this superstition, any kind of superstition, you lose the ability to see the whole picture and to be able to function properly. So no, on my side, I never had anything. Of course, when I was competing, I had a bit of routine, in my warm up, and then all these little things. Because when
that's not superstition. That's routine.
No, I was more like, trying to find your comfort zone just before the performance. But it was not superstition.
Yeah. Now, I have to admit, I used to be sometimes superstitious, but I realized, exactly arranging, like aligning the watch, the computer, the same way it should be, putting the left wing first. Adam was doing the same. The first, every time you are getting in the water. Then I realized if I happen to fail one of my superstitious routine, I create stress.
Yes.
Then I said, okay, let it go. I like coffee a lot, for example. I tried to, give up coffee as well, but even that created stress and affected my freediving on the bad side. The day I returned back to my coffee, hey, I was me again. Yeah.
But giving up coffee for you was more impacting than coffee itself.
Of course, definitely.
So at some point you have to, give a bit. It's like when you train full time as an athlete for 6 hours per day for a year for one performance. If one day you feel like going partying with your friend, you do it, because then at that time you need that. You need to release some pressure. Yeah. And I think you need to understand how you function. And of course, you need to be dedicated, but sometimes you have to be able to step out of the routine.
Yeah. And Mark Edison says, don't forget the M&Ms, Fred. That's I think true. You have a history.
With Mark, we have a big history of M&Ms. And, by the way, Mark is my friend who brought me for the first time freediving with a great white shark.
Amazing.
And so that was a very, very special day. And also we mentioned Dan Burton at the beginning of the conversation. And Dan is somehow the guy who brought me into underwater photography. Dan was my photographer when I was on competition and record attempt. He was the guy documenting the whole thing for me. And he followed a lot of freedivers. He's probably the photographer with the most old school freedivers in his picture collection. And thanks to him, I was always asking him about his cameras and everything. He's the first guy who put a digital camera in an underwater housing before everybody believed in digital cameras, because we started with film cameras, and just to give you an idea, it was before the internet and everything. And so he really helped me to be willing to go to underwater photography. It's one of the key persons that made me do the switch.
Beautiful. So, do you have a favorite place to freedive? Any particular dream location that you?
There's lots, but I would say I love here in Azores because anything can happen. You never know what's going to be around the corner. Conditions are difficult. It's quite windy. Water can have a lot of currents and everything. But when the conditions are right, anything can happen. I love the Eastern Pacific. So from Mexico, like, Baja California, Galapagos Islands, Malpelo Island in Colombia, all that ecosystem with this giant school of hammerhead sharks and silky sharks. It's very rich waters. I've been working a lot there on shark tagging project and things. So that's a very good location. South Africa, of course, is great for shark diving. So many species of sharks, so many different places to discover with a lot of wildlife. So yeah, the Mediterranean Sea, I love it, even if there's not many fish anymore, but just for the underwater architecture, these big drop-offs, crystal clear waters. So I think everywhere you have great diving location, even in Norway, you can dive in the fjord. Sometimes it's crystal clear, it's cold, but it's magnificent. So
I can imagine, yeah.
There's so many places.
So if I had the chance to give you a ticket, one place that you wish for right now, where would it be?
There's not many places where I haven't been and I really want to go, but maybe Ascension Island.
Nice choice.
And it's kind of a Jurassic Park in the middle of the Southern Atlantic.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of place I like, where anything is possible, when you really feel part of the food chain, but you're not at the top at all.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just cannot stop myself to ask this question. Did you ever feel scared? Did you ever feel like, I mean, dealing with these sharks, big sharks, I mean, I had some experience, not a lot of experience. I remember the first time I saw, it was very similar to what you were saying. I felt scared, but immediately I realized the shark is more scared. He was terrified to see me. And he or she, I don't even remember, like, ran away. But then, okay, somehow I feel comfortable now. But I have never get in the water with a great fight. I don't know. I don't think I can feel comfortable. So did you ever feel like scared or
I think
uneasy,
fear is a very important emotion for humans. Whether it's about deep free diving or diving with big animals, it's very important to listen to yourself. I don't believe people say, "Oh, I'm never afraid. I'm not afraid." That's bullshit. At some point, you have a little thing telling you, maybe not now.
Yeah.
And every day you dive, even, if you're a very deep free diver, you're able to go to 50 meters. And one day on a 30-meter dive, maybe you don't feel right. There's something wrong. Listen to that. And fear is all about that. It's the fear of not performing well. It's the fear of being bitten by an animal. Listen to that, because maybe it's not the right day. And also, when you dive with animals, it's very important to understand that animals are like us. I said, for example, sharks have personality. In places where we dive with shark regularly, we see the same individuals. Okay, tiger sharks in South Africa, we're recognizing them. They all have their personality. Same for the great white in Mexico. We recognize them. They all have their personality. So you assume, okay, that shark is a cool shark. He's always a bit shy, so it's always good. No, it's not the case, because one day he might not be in a very good mood, like you or me. Sometimes you wake up and you're not happy, and everything is pissing you off. You're always, it's a bad day. And every animal can have a bad day. So you have to never take things for granted with big animals like that. Always try to assess the situation before really getting into the interaction, and always question yourself, and always dive with people around you that can tell you, I don't feel it, like it's not right today, let's get out of the water. And you have to trust your bodies. It's very important, because your body knows more about you than you know about yourself.
Yeah, sure.
And that's something a lot of people have difficulty to accept. And moreover, when you do deep free diving, sometimes people know more what's going through your mind than yourself.
Yeah,
so
true.
Listen to people.
Okay. Now I'm coming to my last question. For our viewers, if you have questions, please shoot them out. if you have to give 2 suggestions for someone who is planning to start freediving, what would they be?
The first, gather the right knowledge. Okay, and that doesn't mean go on YouTube and get the videos. It means find a real human being who's teaching freediving, who has a lot of experience, and who can open the doors for you, and take your hand and get you into that world. And the second thing is, don't burn the step. Take your time. A good freediver is an old freediver.
Yeah.
And you never stop learning. I have a friend, he's 81, almost 82 years old now, from Israel, Aaron Solomon. Maybe a lot of the community know about him. He's 82 years old, he's still able to dive to 60 meters or 70 meters in constant weight. And that guy has so much knowledge about freediving because he's been doing that for all his life, before us, before Mayol, before all these guys. So the key is to take your time and don't burn the step, and then you will be a good freediver.
I totally agree. I couldn't have said better than that. Real humans, that is for sure #1 advice. And yes, every time you get in the water, it's not just the repetition of the same depth. It's another opportunity to learn from the dive. We should just look into the dive with that point of view. This way we just can learn from the experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah. Super nice. Let me check if you have questions. Not really. Good.
Okay.
Fred, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you here. And I hope we are going to see your amazing photography and stories very soon. Yeah,
as soon as the season starts here, now we have the migration of blue whales this time of the year, and then the sperm whale are resident all the time, and blue sharks are coming in 1.5 months, and mobulares. So it starts. So now we slowly get back in the water.
And are you able to dive these days?
Not really, because we have a bit of wind, and then we couldn't because of the confinement. And but now next week I'll get back in. The boat is getting back in the water on Monday or Tuesday, and so the season starts now. So even if we don't have any visitors, but I'll go out for myself and visit local friends to try to find animals.
Perfect.
And for you, the season starts, or you go at sea?
Yes, actually, the sea is beautiful, but we are in confinement. I think it's gonna take a couple of more weeks for us.
You cannot go in the water. You don't have the right to go in the water.
No, you see, all the scales are dry, and my gills are crumbled a little bit, so I'm in pain. I hose myself with the water in the garden. So
yeah. I spend a lot of time in the shower. My shower are very long at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Super nice. Next week, again, we are going to have an amazing guest with a lot of interesting stories. And thank you very much for everyone who watched us, who commented, and who shared our passion. So see you next time. Thank you, Fred, again.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching us.